Long ago, in a land of sandy deserts and bright blue skies, there lived a kind old man named Abraham and his gentle wife, Sarah. Abraham and Sarah loved each other very much, and they loved God with all their hearts. But there was one thing they wished for more than anything else in the world. They wanted to have a child. Even though they had grown very old, so old that most people would never expect to have a baby, they still hoped and prayed for a family. One night, as Abraham looked up at the sparkling stars above his tent, God spoke to him. "Abraham," God said, "look at the sky and count the stars if you can. That's how many children and grandchildren you will have one day." Abraham was amazed. He believed God's promise, even though it seemed impossible. After all, he and Sarah were both very old. Time passed, and still Abraham and Sarah did not have a child. Sometimes Sarah felt sad and wondered if God's promise would ever come true. She wanted so much to hold a baby of her own. But Abraham reminded her to trust God and remember his words. One hot afternoon, as Abraham sat at the entrance of his tent, 3 special visitors arrived. Their faces glowed with kindness, and their voices were gentle. Abraham hurried to greet them, offering them cool water and tasty food to rest from their journey. As they enjoyed their meal, one of the visitors turned to Abraham and said, "Next year, Sarah will have a baby boy." Sarah was listening nearby, hidden behind the tent flap. She couldn't help but giggle to herself. "How could I have a baby now? I'm far too old." But God heard Sarah's laughter. He gently asked, "Why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too hard for God?" Sarah felt a little shy, but she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, God could do the impossible. Sure enough, just as God had promised, something wonderful happened. As the year went by, Sarah's belly began to grow. She smiled more each day, amazed at the miracle happening inside her. And then, when the time was just right, Sarah gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. She and Abraham were filled with joy and laughter. They named their son Isaac, which means laughter, because he brought so much happiness to their lives and reminded them to trust God's promises. Abraham and Sarah hugged their little boy close, thankful for their precious gift. They knew that God always keeps his promises, even when things seem impossible. And Isaac grew up strong and happy, surrounded by love and stories about God's faithfulness. So whenever you look up at the night sky and see the twinkling stars, remember the story of Abraham and Sarah. Remember how God kept his promise and filled their home with laughter. No matter how big or small your hopes and dreams may be, trust that God listens, cares, and can do wonderful things, even things that seem impossible. And that's the story of Isaac's special birth, a story of hope, laughter, and faith that shines as bright as the stars above.